Yeah, so let's talk about the Star Wars score. You know, very lush, late romantic symphonic score. And at the time in the 70s, I mean, that had gone out of fashion. I mean, it was considered, for lack of better words, cheesy. You know, and when I say late romantic, I mean like a huge orchestra, huge scales, sweeping strings, roaring brass sections, just these huge swells of emotion and very clear, identifiable melodies. It's like it's telling a very obvious story. It's the kind of music that grabs you by the collar and just tells you exactly what to feel. But by the 70s, that was old-fashioned. I mean, considering what was going on in the world, Watergate, Vietnam, they had kind of moved away from that. It's a very cynical time. You know, you go to the movie theater and watch something like Taxi Driver, and the music was, you know, jazzy, and all the music at that time was going more towards sparse, you know, acoustic guitars, folky, eerie, modernist synthesizers. And George Lucas was very much a part of that new Hollywood movement. But he was a rebel. In that sense, he really was. When he was putting together this little space opera called Star Wars, he didn't originally intend to hire a composer. He wanted to use original classical music, kind of like in the tradition of Kubrick in 2001, and you know, him using Strauss and other composers. But that's what he wanted. He wanted that gravitas from classical music. And then John Williams comes into the picture, and he's like, no, don't do that. I've got an idea. I want to make original music. Original, quote unquote. Well, we'll see. So he tells Lucas he wants to write an unapologetically old-fashioned score. He wants those massive brass fanfares, the surging strings, and the leitmotifs, like where there's like theme songs for characters. And of course the Darth Vader theme, Princess Leia theme, you know, things like that. It was a crazy risk when you think about it, because it was a huge gamble. I mean, it feels like showing up to a trendy, you know, underground 1970s like punk club, you know, wearing like you're dressed like from the Little House on the Prairie or something, right? So because of the narrative that was needed of the film itself, Lucas ultimately realized he didn't want a trendy, ironic, or futuristic sounding synthesizer score, because the movie, it wasn't really science fiction. It was fantasy. It was a hero's journey. It was a fairy tale set in space. So Williams recognized that since the visual environment was so alien, the music needed to have that emotional anchor for the audience. So he deliberately linked the film to the emotional weight of 19th century opera and the golden age of Hollywood adventure films. He wanted you to feel that sense of grand historical tradition to offset the futuristic visuals precisely. It was brilliant, really. And that deliberate choice to use the older musical language is exactly why the plagiarism accusation started flying almost immediately after the movie came out in 1977. Yeah, the critics just came out of the woodwork because Williams was actively picking up the dusty tools of older composers. And that's when everybody starts to talk about Holst.